Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Todd coming at you with another episode of Living Your Best Life. And of course, thank you so much for giving us some of your time, your energy today, whenever you are, wherever you are in the world right now. Of course, what we do on our show, if you don't already know, is we invite professionals on to talk about what they do and how what they do contributes to a healthier society, a wealthier society, just a better society in general. And so we go out there, we find people that are out there in the trenches that are helping people do just that, live their best lives. Today, you're in for a real treat. I had the honor of meeting this young lady on another podcast, and I fell in love with her because she has such a deep perspective on life, and I appreciate her journey through her struggles. From childhood all the way up to where she is now, which is she is now coined herself and she is known now as the millionaire Shaw woman. Okay, if you know what a shaman is, then you know what a Shaw woman is, just a female version of that. So listen, you're going to enjoy this conversation today. I know that I did. She's also an author, and please do, if you get an opportunity to check out her book, you can either download it through ebook or you can get the hard copy or the paperback. Awaken Your Miracle Frequency. Okay, if you know anything about that type of terminology in terms of frequency and vibrations, this is what she's all about. All right, and I actually love that type of conversation. So it was definitely an engaging conversation, and I definitely want you to go and check her out. So listen, that's my guest, Clare Emily Williamson today. She's going to be coming on and she's going to share with us how we can live our best lives. But before we do that, of course, all right, if you're 50 years of age and above, stop eating certain foods, okay, or at least drastically cut them off or cut down on it, right? Reduce them. So download, okay, the 50 foods that we should definitely stop eating if we're over the age of 50. Of course, I'm over the age of 50, 57 now. So these foods I'm definitely really cutting from my diet. Alrighty, so download the free guide, and I'll see you on the other side of the commercial because I have a short commercial coming up, and then we'll get on to the actual interview of Clare Emily Williamson, our podcast guest for this episode. You guys take care and see you on the other side. Be good. Peace. So, welcome back, everybody, to, of course, Living Your Best Life. Of course, you already know from the introduction, Todd here. Listen, like I was saying in the commercial, listen, we're doing the 30-day challenge, so you make sure if you're stuck on that scale in your weight, all right, please get on the challenge. We want you on that. If you're stuck, just health-wise, get on the challenge. We're helping people break those plateaus, and we have a webinar that's coming up on the 20th. So please, join us on that webinar. But anyway, enough about me. All right, I want to get on to this young lady here because I met this young lady, Clare Williamson, about a month ago on another podcast. And when I was on the podcast, and my mouth was just like, it was just open because I was just so like taken by her knowledge and her heart, even more so, and her story. Now, she is an author, and she is what's called, she calls herself now the millionaire Shaw woman. And I love that. And I just want to say, coming in from all the way in New Zealand, this is where my wife wants to actually live, I think, nowadays. Coming in all the way from New Zealand. Thank you so much, Clare Williamson, for hanging out with us today.
Woohoo! Hey,
How you doing today? Doing all right?
I'm good. It is 5:07 a.m.
5:07 a.m. Oh man, is everybody still sleeping in your house? I'm
They're
assuming, right?
completely asleep. Yeah, it's
Okay, so we
peace
won't
apart
talk
from
too
the
loud.
cat.
We won't talk too loud. No. So,
Mm.
but thank you so much for hanging out. You know, like I said, when I first met you, I was floored by, you know, your willingness to just be the person, your courage to be the person that you are. And being authentic is a challenge for most people. And I absolutely love your authenticity of and your courage to be you. And I want to capture some of who you are, and I want to share you with my audience because I think you have a message to get out to the world. And if I can be a part of, you know, of uh, that funnel, then I will definitely I'm ready for it. So I would love to know, of the world, Claire Williamson, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to these days.
Yes, I guess the millionaire Shah woman, there's so much symbolism in that name for me.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not actually a millionaire yet, but
Mhm.
what I do with people is so much about believing in who and what is within and unleashing that. And the woman as well, like we think about these roles, we think about these identities. Shaman is a deep journey that I've been on, unleashing my inner shaman. But the whole Shah woman, we're integrated, we've got both of these energies within. And yeah, so that name came to me in a visualization, and I was like, I can't call myself that. And then
Mhm.
I realized, I am that. And yeah, I guess that's what I do with people is like, who is within? Who truly are you? Why have you had this story? What are you here on this planet to really do? And how do you step into that? What do you have to let go of? And I
Mhm.
work with entrepreneurs, and I had this, I guess, deep marketing, social media knowledge, and I wanted to bring that through, but I didn't really want to get stuck in that box.
Mhm.
So I love to mix this simplified marketing strategy together with the deep inner work, the deep shadow work, really revealing yourself to yourself and getting to know that darkness, because in our darkness we find unity, right? It's like you say, being able to be truly authentic. We have to carry the darkness into the light. It has to, again, be integrated so that we can be
Mhm.
all of who we are and let that light really shine through and fulfill our purpose.
Wow. Wow. Now, you know, you haven't always been this person, I'm assuming, right?
No, no.
So, and if you don't mind, because we've all heard of shaman, you're the first person I've heard of, you know, shawoman. Now, is can you break down shaman or shawoman? What do they do, and are you a shawoman, or how does that work in your world?
So, yeah, like I said, I wanted to use the name Shah woman,
Hmm.
that integration of woman. This is a
Hmm.
big thing I've been leading with recently, is this idea of this duality within us that is
Hmm.
extremely positive, right?
Hmm.
The fact that you carry beautiful, divine, feminine energy. It's why you're here on your podcast, loving,
Hmm.
nurturing, wanting to help people. And the masculine provides this beautiful, safe container. But our entire patriarchy has just screwed these roles up. And the shaman, right? The shaman has been historically known as a man, the tribal man. But
Yeah.
actually, there are so many incredible Shah women,
Hmm.
women shaman who are out there in.
Hmm.
And the thing is that you don't have to come from a tribe to access your inner shaman or Shah woman,
Hmm.
because it's about fearlessness. It's about finding your lion's heart. And what I discovered, and I actually wrote a separate book, or in a separate book about this, is how when we're navigating living in this fear place of our brain, we're only tapped into the limbic, the survival, the amygdala limbic brain. And what happens when you let go of fear is you leave this part of your brain behind and you move into what I call the alpha brain, which is the neocortex, the newer part of the brain. It is the creative brain, the imagination. And this is where the shaman navigates, right? The shaman walks between the worlds. The shaman goes out into other dimensions and solves problems. The shaman uses, and historically there's been plant medicine to take you into these altered states of consciousness. But really, you don't need the plant medicine to get there. You can get there with your breath. You can get there with relaxation. And it's a powerful place to be in your brain. You've read in my book about the creative
Mhm.
wave of chaos, right? If you
Yeah.
can let go, if you can access the lion's heart, if you can experience fearlessness, then we can all unleash that inner shaman. We can all use altered states of consciousness to solve our problems. We can all live more in our imagination, because
Mm.
that's what the shaman does. It's like, okay, yeah, it's accessing that fearlessness and
Right.
taking rites of passage to that place of living without fear as well. Traditionally, the shaman took 24 rites of passage. And in the
Mhm.
olden days, it would be like wrestling a bear or getting buried under a ground for as long as they could stand, or, getting eaten alive by ants,
Mhm.
stun, pain. But we're going through this pain, through these challenges, through these experiences every day in our lives.
Yeah.
And it's whether you say, okay, I'm a victim to these, I'm going to crumble, I'm going to be defeated, or I'm going to understand how this is helping me to find fearlessness and trust, how this
Wow.
is helping me to find my authentic truth, the person that can stand in the eye of any hurricane and dance.
Wow.
Find even to the point of find ecstatic bliss in complete
Mm.
chaos, because it's serving us, right? It's teaching us about ourselves. It's teaching us lessons. It's teaching us new perspectives. It's helping us find our path,
Mhm.
ultimately.
Mhm. Wow. That's a mouthful there. And it's one of those things I would say, Claire, that I don't know what it's like in New Zealand, but I know in this country here, we don't really focus on a lot of inner work. And that might be, I think we're moving more towards it now. I think we've had enough of the topical and just this material type of triumphs and things like that. But now we're really moving towards, I think, more now the inner work. And I know that I've been at this for a while. Now, how long have you, because you've had a journey from your childhood. There was some ups and downs. And so you haven't always been this person. Who were you before this new Claire?
Wow, what a big question. Because you don't recognize it, do you, at the time when you're there,
Mhm.
When I look back, I see somebody who is very fearful,
Mhm.
and somebody who, as a child, I think, did look through my parents' eyes, who were very fearful, very stuck in their victim consciousness.
Mhm.
And I saw a world to fear. So I was reactive as well. That's a big chunk of my story. I'm not sure how much I really share about that side in the book of how reactive I used to be, angry, and
Yeah.
um yeah, and I used to have this, well, I think I talk a lot about this, the run.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
used to just
Yeah.
run from life, run in
Yeah.
every direction. That's how I ended up in New Zealand. I was like, how far can I actually run from this situation right here? And the thing that I realized finally was like, holy shit, everything runs and just finds you again because it's
Mhm.
you.
No matter where
You
I
know,
am, no matter where I go, there I am.
yeah, exactly. And it did. It took me some time. I must have been, yeah, late 20s when I realized it's like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm seeing the pattern here.
Mhm.
And I think what really happened was when I had my first daughter, and she was actually born with a health condition.
Mhm.
And again, I was like, wow, okay, we've got a situation here, and I need to fix it somehow. And there was no way to fix it. Everybody that I turned to had no idea. It was quite yeah, it was just a health condition that really people didn't understand. And there was no drug to fix it. And so for the first time in my life, I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to have to look in and actually understand how I can be the solution to this without running. I can't run anywhere. I'm a mum now. I had a mortgage,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
A dog, a cat,
Yeah,
a house. And yeah, and it was this empowerment and realizing that I had to be the solution and finding my strength. And
right.
I think that was really where it started. And it was also where I started to see that there were so many different, more holistic ways to live our lives. So again, when I talk about that fear state, we're all in that fear state because when you're living within the matrix where you get kind of supported and you become dependent on things and things are a certain way and you have no other perspectives, it's just you're living within a box, right?
Mhm.
And you don't see outside of the box. And I started to see outside of the box. I was like, wow, okay, there's a whole other world out here that I hadn't seen when I lived in a way where I get paid a wage, I get supported, there's people to help you when you get stuck. And, if that none of that works, you can just run,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so I started this beautiful holistic path that was actually, more in the area that you work, more in physical health.
yeah,
Started looking after my body, started um, healing my child through nutrition and essential oils and yeah, even meditation.
hmm,
So that was where I think it started. And so how long
yeah.
has that been? That would be close to maybe 12, 13 years.
Wow, wow, wow.
Mhm.
So you've been on this path for a while, if not all your life, you know. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I phrase it just that way because I don't, there's no getting off the path. It's are you aware that you're on the path? Yes, no.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. You spoke about in your book the blueprint, and I think that's something that, I remember years ago reading a book called The Millionaire Mind or something like that, Millionaire Mindset, T. Harv Eker, where he talks about the money blueprint. And pretty much these things are set when, as children, your blueprint. And so I guess that's a part of your journey too. You had that blueprint, right?
Those 0 to 7 years old where we're in this theta brainwave state. So when people go into hypnosis and they're
Hmm.
put into this theta brainwave state, that's where you are as a child. So all of those belief systems that your parents hold and the way that they see the world just becomes who you are. And the thing is, like, you think about how unconsciously we go through life and we don't realize where we're imprinting into our children certain belief systems.
Hmm.
Maybe we're stressed one day and we react in a certain way and they just receive that. They just take that in. And so I realized in this journey of entrepreneurship that I had a blueprint. It was a very fixed blueprint around money and around that consciousness, the victim consciousness.
Hmm. Hmm.
And now what I do is I shift people's blueprints because we operate from these blueprints. There's a ripple
Hmm.
effect of these belief systems. They become the actions that we take, the thoughts that we have, and that becomes our identity. And
Yeah.
when you're walking around your world and you realize, wow, I want all these things to change, what I say to people is that you have to change. You have to shift that identity, and it comes back to your blueprint. So rather than sleeping awake on this blueprint that you have and roboting through life, it's like, how do we shift this blueprint so that you become somebody who feels more like home to you? Because we
Yeah.
feel the discomfort of not being home within ourselves, right? It's like we don't yeah, we don't feel comfortable. We blame it on the stuff around us rather than the stuff within us.
Mm,
I've
mm,
taken a deep journey with this across those 12 or so years, where a lot of the alchemy was very conscious. For me, the journey began with things, talking therapies, counseling, things like that. I actually then felt like something was lacking there. And when I was becoming a coach, I became a trauma-informed coach. So,
mm,
used coaching as a mechanism to heal this blueprint. But in recent years, I've realized how much can be healed unconsciously. And I'm
mm,
sort of leading with what I'm calling unconscious alchemy, which is where we let the body do what it's meant to do. It
Hmm.
knows how to release trauma, moving more into the somatic work, working with the body. And that has been super powerful because you think about all this conscious shifting and it's like knackering, it's tiring. If you
Hmm.
think more into how we can work with the body and allow it to do what it's meant to do,
Hmm.
it's easier, it's more graceful, it's more powerful. And I'm seeing shifts a lot quicker in my clients as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems, Claire, in the title of your book, um, in the subtitle part, particularly, it's easier than you think to have it all. And I just find that to be a really interesting subtitle there, because is it really easier?
Loaded, eh?
Yeah, good enough.
It's really loaded. Yeah, I mean, awaken your miracle frequency. It's easier than you think to have it all. First of all, how do we really feel about having it all? If you
Hmm.
tap into that, like that triggers, it's sort of like,
Yeah,
woo, am I
yeah,
allowed? Do I have
yeah.
permission? Am I
That's
greedy?
the question. Yeah.
And then it's easier. It's easy. What? I don't have to work hard for it. I don't have to chase. I don't have to push. I don't have to force. You connected with me this week. You saw that I'd been in hospital, and you like, are you okay for our session, this podcast?
Mhm.
I thought to myself, yeah, because I'm going to spend the next 2 or 3 days in bed because I can, right? I've created this life where I know how to attract, to be a
Mhm.
magnet to what I want. And I've made sales in the last couple of days too. And I actually
Mhm.
was yesterday, I was like, it's easy, right? It's easy. It's easier than you think to have it all, but you've got to have that belief system. You've got to let go of this programmed guilt and shame
Yeah,
when you don't push and force.
yeah. Well,
And that's sort of coming back to what I said at the start, the patriarchy, the masculine, the unawakened masculine, the what we have been led to believe is the masculine drive, like getting up and like
right,
moving.
right,
It's
right.
not actually true. It's the safe container. And that comes again down to how we see the world. Do we see the world as safe, or do we see the world as something to fear?
Hmm.
And
I
where does
think
that
most of us
programming
see the
come
world.
from?
Yeah. I think most of us see it as something to fear,
Yeah.
because we live in that dualistic, you spoke about it a little, we live in duality, and, it's either right, wrong, up, down, good, bad, one or the other. And we're always having to pick a side. And instead of, really understanding how to be whole, we're stuck on, this one side of this whole journey here.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I think we're just stuck in fear. And, this whole thing, like I said, that subtitle really caught my attention because, like you said, the questions that we start out with is, can I really have it all? I mean, already we're posing, an obstacle. We're putting a struggle right before us. And I guess that's all blueprint, right? All a
And
part
I
of the
told you
matrix.
in the opening chapter about the millionaire inside. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what does that actually mean to you? Because I
Hmm.
think a lot of us don't have money because we don't allow ourselves to have money, right? We've built
Right.
these walls up around ourselves and the abundance that we seek. We're really good at saying it on the surface. Oh, I want to make more money. I want to live more comfortably. Do you? Or do you have like a lack of enoughness within because of that blueprint that you hold that's got all of those belief systems about you and about the world? That you
Hmm.
won't allow that abundance, right? You won't allow it. You don't feel worthy of it. You don't feel deserving of it. You don't feel capable of creating it. And this is something that I have with clients, they break through their money barriers. They get the money. They freaking like wet themselves and sabotage because they don't feel capable of keeping it. They don't
So
feel
that's the
able to
next.
maintain it. It's like they're then looking ahead and they're like, oh my gosh, well, how do I make that much the next month? And the fear of that, the fear that they won't, makes them not. So I
Oh.
find that there's this period, I call it the 4 to 6 weeks period, where it's like we're really working on keeping the money that they make because the
Hmm.
money shifts. but they haven't shifted enough necessarily on the inside to hold on to it, to maintain it. And making that money often brings stuff up that we then get to look at. It's beautiful. Again, discomfort. When you work with me, we work in your uncomfortable place, always outside the comfort zone,
Yeah.
because that's where the shifts really happen. That magic zone is true. There where you're comfortable, nothing happens, nothing changes. Get uncomfortable, start making decisions that, really push you to the edge. And that's where we start to see the miracle frequency switch on. And this is where my foundational tool, the 7x7 method, really comes into its own. Because rather than living unconsciously and being unaware of where you're being triggered and running away from your discomforts and numbing them, escaping them, and just thinking through them, we sit in them. So we use
Hmm.
that method to sit down 7 times a day, 7 minutes, and feel what's really coming up.
Mm.
Like what is making you feel uncomfortable? What are you actually fearing? When you dig down and you say, what are you actually fearing? You go so many layers deep
Yeah.
because you can ask yourself, well, and what am I afraid of happening then? And then what am I afraid of? Because at the base of that, there's you, right? Rather than all these things outside of you, you can say, okay, like this is about me.
Hmm.
Who do I become so I don't fear this anymore? How do I let go? And what you start to notice as well with that method is like when you allow yourself to feel these fears, they actually go. You actually
Hmm.
come to a place of neutrality. You actually come to a place of peacefulness. And that's where the projection of the polarity disappears,
Mm.
right? It
Mm.
just is. It
Yeah.
just is.
Yeah. Wow. You know, the going back, like I said, you were talking about the blueprint thing. I was going to, what was I going to say here? Because you when you talk, it's like I want to capture this, I want to capture that, you know. And but you're talking one part in your book, you were you were hiring a coach, and you were at that point where I was like, you were like, I can't afford this. How am I going to make this? So you ran into those walls, and but you actually pushed through, and that was tough, I guess, right?
That was the craziest time of my whole life. So I
Wow.
was actually, at that time, I was chasing the dream of kickboxing
Hmm.
professionally.
Hmm.
I didn't realize it at the time, but it was complete physical self-sabotage and hiding from life. Like when I was in the dojo and I was training 5, 6 days a week, I was just, hiding from life. I was half-assing in my business, you know. Well, I can't go all in because I've got to train, I've got to fight, blah, blah, blah. But my health was failing. I was
Mm.
really failing on me. I was really struggling. And and then and at the same time, I was chasing this dream of also having my third child. So imagine it. It's like I want to be a kickboxer, but I want to have a baby as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So like
Yeah.
I was miscarrying. I was miscarrying. I was
Oh my
miscarrying.
God.
My body was just not able to be pregnant.
Yeah.
And it really reached a crux, like it does, right, in your life. You always if you don't listen to these signs from the universe just gives you a big boot up the ass and kicks you off. And like, you end up with scuff marks, you're there in the gravel, you're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
happened. I got really ill. So I had to stop training. I had to
Mm.
step back. I had like real health scares, a health scare, I should say. They were worried I had cancer in my colon.
How long ago was
And and I was just like, and then I
that?
was like,
That
okay,
was how long ago was that? I'm sorry, Claire. How long ago
that
was
was
that? That wasn't too long ago.
2019.
2018. Yeah. 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 Eek.
So I stood back and I was like, okay, I need to sort my health out, number one. So I went on this big detox, a 30-day detox, and I actually fell pregnant.
Mm.
And I was like, whoa. And then I actually stayed pregnant. That was the first thing. And I then saw an advert pop up on Facebook for this coach. And I was like, right, okay, I need to like, I'm gonna put the kickboxing to one side. I'm gonna focus on my business, book this session in with this coach, this discovery call. And like I said, she actually told me her price. I was like, oh my God, that's insane. It was like 33,000 New Zealand dollars. I was like, what?
Okay.
That's just insane. And I booked a follow-up call.
Hmm.
And in between, I think it was the first call and the follow-up call, my husband got made redundant.
Hmm.
So then we're looking at a $33,000 coach. My husband's got no job. We're coming up to Christmas as well. It was like, so he was like, well, I'm not really thinking that I'm going to get another job until the January. But he had a redundancy packet and it was about 6 grand.
Hmm.
And so we put $3,300 of this redundancy packet. And he's like trusting me, like, like, please tell me you have some plan here because there's going to be no
All we
Christmas,
got.
And I'm like, well, no, it's okay. Like, it's okay. And we're going to do this because I was
Hmm.
feeling that feeling like, Clay, you haven't gone full ass. You haven't gone all in. Go all
Hmm.
in and see what happens. Right. Because the coach said something on the call too. She's like, well, if you don't believe that this is going to work, are you telling me that you're not going to work for it? And I was like, whoa, that's true. If it's working for
Yeah.
other people, why shouldn't I be different?
Yeah.
And you put this money down. And then what happens? COVID happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my husband's like, whoa, now we're in a lockdown. I'm at home.
Wow.
There
Yeah.
is no job to go. Like, there's no, and there I am, like main breadwinner,
Hmm.
suddenly making this happen. And I made it happen. It was just wild. And that's when I
That,
really started to believe how much of this is actually to do with what you believe is possible.
when you put to the test, you're kind of like put out there to like, I have to. When you have almost no option, it's like, you know, it's
Yes.
yeah,
But think about it, like how many times in our life, how many times a day are you actually putting yourself in the place of having no options? Because
yeah,
I would say 99% of the day, you're making sure you've got all your options.
yeah. Playing
And
it
this
safe.
is
I
where in
mean,
the book I talk about riding the creative wave of chaos. This is
hmm.
like getting to the place where you don't have options. Your only option is to trust. And the
Hmm.
universe is like, you know, serving you this chaos, and you can say it could be chaos and I'm going to just you lie down and die,
Hmm.
or I'm going to say this is a beautiful creative wave of chaos and I am the creation. Something is
Yeah,
unfolding here by divine plan, and I'm going to trust. I'm going to freaking trust. And that is the way I live my life now, and it's wild. The craziest of things just appear that I would not necessarily have gone out and searched for myself,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
consistently say yes in
yeah,
trust.
yeah.
And I consistently, yesterday I signed an agreement for a house that I don't have the rest to pay now,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I'm going to move into that house, right?
Hmm.
It's like it's
Yeah.
living your life like that, trusting that these things are appearing and they're coming to you, but you have
Wow.
got to overcome your fear. You've got to say yes. You've got
It's,
to, it's, yeah, I think with my marriage, because my marriage broke down last year ultimately.
hmm.
And that was taking this whole fear journey to a whole new level. That safe container, that masculine was gone. I had to
Hmm.
find that in myself in a healthy way and in a healthy expression,
Yeah.
not fix, push, force, hold together with my bare, grizzly hands.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
like surrender to my whole entire life is falling apart. Every sense of safety and security I have is dissolving. But along with it is everything that wasn't also aligned to who I truly am. And I remember sitting out on my driveway and allowing myself to drop into every single fear. Like it was almost like falling, this feeling of falling into this black abyss,
Hmm.
deeper, 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 deeper. And I kept at any moment expecting to just land with this massive thud, like expecting there to be a ground to hit. But as I felt into every fear and I let each fear fall away, I realized there was no ground. And I actually fell through somewhere. I don't know where. Like it was this beautiful meditation where I felt like I was floating in space.
Yeah.
And for the first time in over probably 2 years, I saw these glimmers of a vision that felt aligned to who I am on the inside. I
Wow.
actually saw this green space and my
Hmm.
kids running through this green space.
Hmm.
And I actually saw this little house behind me. It was tiny. I was like, millionaires don't live in houses like that. But I felt so connected to this tiny, simple space in this
Yeah.
land. There was chickens. It was like,
Yeah.
it was just,
Yeah.
and I was like, what is that? What is that? But it felt so at home, it felt so much like home, so much more like home than these big houses that I've been trying to visualize. I was on this journey to live into this millionaire inside. And that's the thing. It's like when we think about money, we have so many things attached to the money that aren't necessarily who we are,
Right.
which is going to make money really hard to make, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because without
Hmm.
even realizing it, we're going to have resistance.
Hmm.
So it's like, who are you? Money is just energy. Money is
Yeah.
just in flow all the time, either through you or around you. And it's going to come through you if you are open, if you have more curiosity than resistance, if you have more openness than fear, right?
Right. Right.
Money becomes your expression of that authenticity. And money needs somewhere to flow.
You know, like you are so deep. You are so deep. And I appreciate that. And moving back to the fear thing, because this is something that like I said, it really stagnates. So, so many of us, it puts so many of us in just a place of just, you know, dissolving, in life. Um, Fear of creativity. That was something that you brought up in your book. And that's the first time I've heard of something like that. We all have fear of, these fears. But because you were talking about fear of success or fear of failure, things like that. But yours was pretty much like fear of creativity. Can you share a little bit of, because I want to make sure that, because there are more people out there probably in that position than we realize. We just don't realize it.
Yeah, especially entrepreneurs. I mean, you think
Yeah,
about why
yeah,
do you
yeah,
go into entrepreneurship to create something, but we don't
yeah,
create something. We try and copy others.
yeah.
And that's because we want to see, I realized this when I started to play the cello last year. The
Hmm.
penny dropped. I realized what it is. We are so afraid not to be perfect. It's almost like our body remembers all of the criticisms of childhood, of not getting it right.
Hmm.
Maybe even like fear of violence or fear of punishment. We fear the humiliation, the embarrassment. I remember being stood at school, I think I write about this in the book, and being asked to do my times tables and not getting it right and just feeling so bloody stupid. Our
That
body
was me.
holds that
Yeah,
memory, right? Holds
yeah.
that memory. And
Yeah.
so we fear creation. And I felt it with my cello. I bought this beautiful cello and I got it out and I made a sound and I was like, oh my God, what is that? Like, that doesn't sound like it's meant to sound. It sounded awful.
Hmm.
And this experience of trying to get better at the cello was so painful because I couldn't bear to not be good at it immediately. And I
Yeah,
started to break that down. I was like, wow, what's going on here? Like, that is what we fear. We want
yeah.
everything to be perfect so we don't have to feel the pain of the imperfection, of our imperfection, of
Wow.
everything we attach to things not being right straight away. Again, that safety. Well, if it's not correct straight away, then what will happen? I won't make money. Then this will happen and then that will happen. And then the brain's going off on this tangent, the blueprint's feeding the brain, and all the thoughts are firing off. And then we're stuck in absolute procrastination, stagnation, paralysis.
Hmm.
Put the cello away. Don't even get it out,
Hmm. Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
But then is the soul singing? Like what called me to the cello in the first place? The soul song. The soul
Yeah,
had this beautiful music. You have beautiful music. You have your
yeah,
own unique, beautiful vibration, and it's calling these things in. And they come to your door, and you close the door, and you say, "No, thank you,"
yeah,
because I'm not willing to feel imperfect. I'm not
yeah,
willing to get it wrong.
Energy is everything, you know. That was something that caught my attention in your book also, because I realized that there's a gentleman by the name, I think it's Rob Bell, and he says everything is energy. And so he was this he used to be the Christian fundamentalist that expanded his awareness when it came to his beliefs, his spiritual beliefs. And he has this awesome speech and book called Energy is Everything. I think that's what it's called. Everything is Energy. And I realized that years ago that, all that we see in the material world is first and foremost thought. And simply before that is pretty much energy, just kind of formed. And so when I was reading that in your book, speaking of money being energy, everything is energy, it's a flow. I thought that was really interesting, and it brought back to my mind that wow, once again the confirmation of yes, energy is everything, or everything is energy.
And this is the thing about the body, right? If everything is energy and we are energy, then we are connected to the universe. We are
Yes,
the universe.
we are.
The ancient Egyptians had this beautiful idea of the creation cycle through the elements, right? So where the elements start is the void, right?
Hmm.
This just dark, empty space, like the moon, right? We've just had the new moon. There is no moon,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
there's nothingness, and that people fear when we think about creation and not creating something because it might be imperfect, and that imperfection might lead to disaster. What if everything starts with that feeling of disaster? Nothing, right?
Mm,
No polarity. It just is. It's just
yeah,
space,
yeah,
pure potential.
yeah.
So when I've landed on my backside multiple times in life, right, and I've been in that victim consciousness, now there is no victim consciousness. It's just absolute opportunity to create the void, darkness. And
Wow.
from the void, the Egyptians said that, okay, these like kind of little waves start to stir, right? So this is where we see, and that's, yeah, these little waves start to stir. This is where we see the moon starting to come into illumination. We see the little slice of moon come in. And this is like feeling, right? This is those feelings, the soul
Hmm.
song.
Hmm.
And that sparks the creativity, right? Sparks the thoughts. So on the cycle of creation, we're going from void to wave to thought. Now, this is often where two things happen. Number one, these thoughts happen and we tell ourselves they're not good enough and we hand them over. They kind of leave us as energy and somebody else picks them up and runs with them, takes action,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
right? This is where you go, hang on a minute, I had that idea. That
Hmm. Yeah,
literally the
yeah.
wave turned to a thought, the thought went out to the universe and some other bugger picked it up and ran with it, and they're the millionaire.
Yeah.
Or second thing, we grab the thought and we have to take action on it, right? We use what we know from our blueprint and we live in that masculine drive, fix, force, push, make happen. And then we create something that is hard, forced, kind of probably not meant to be. So
Yeah.
the Egyptians say at that thought point, just sit with it, right? And this is what I say about the moon. It's kind of like in that new moon first quarter, when you feel the spark of creativity, don't do anything.
Hmm.
Just hand it over to the universe, because this is what the Egyptians used to do.
Right. Wow.
They believed in the ether, and that was an
Yeah.
element, and they would sit and they would allow, right? And this was on the other side of this creative wheel where we went
Hmm.
in more into action. Action becomes divinely inspired, right? This is where what you thought comes from what you know from the
Hmm.
blueprint.
Hmm.
Whereas what you don't know and what you don't know that you don't know is where the magic happens.
Hmm.
So when you allow, again, using that beautiful, loving, nurturing feminine energy to just allow this idea to become,
Hmm.
give it to the universe, say, I trust it in your beautifully, perfectly capable hands, spirit, you know,
Yeah.
and then allow what comes to you. And then you take action, you flow like water with what shows up. And you do what was meant to be, divinely inspired, which is always going to be easy because the universe only seeks balance ever. Nothing out in nature is in force, right? Is it? It's all in flow. It's all an
Yeah.
ecosystem. It's all supporting each other.
Yeah.
And that's what the universe is trying to make us do, is just be more balanced creatures. This is where abundance is. And the action becomes easy. This is what I'm saying. You can have it all and it can be easy, but you got to let go.
Right.
You got to kill the stuff in the blueprint that makes you push and force and control and fear. Because the creation that comes when you do that is so insanely beautiful and easy. And what you make looks totally different to what you thought you were making
Hmm.
because you're working in co-creation with the universe, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
synchronicity. This is where we hear about synchronicity, serendipity.
Yes.
Oh, I
Yes.
thought this thing and then I met this person.
What does your
Yeah,
morning look like?
my
I'm
morning.
curious. Yeah, I'm curious to know what your morning looks
Yeah.
like.
So I have a little altar down here, and
Hmm.
I usually get up and I go and drink some kefir, and then
Yeah.
I drink some water, and I take my vitamins, and then I make a warm Chinese herbal mix.
Hmm.
And I come down and I sit and I light my candle, and I always acknowledge the four directions, north, south, east, and west.
Hmm.
And I kind of attach some spirit animals to them as well. And I kind of acknowledge their power, the jaguar, the seer, the
Hmm.
serpent, the ability to like shed that skin, the owl, the wisdom. I always thank Papatuanuku, the earth, and Ranganui, the sky.
Yeah.
And then I usually drop just into a meditation, silent meditation, or I'll go into a breath work.
Hmm.
And then I do some sun salutations. And then I work with teacher plants, so I'll connect with my plant medicine. And yeah, then I usually feel just this massive love bubble
Hmm.
and get up and start my day. But in the last few weeks, I've been integrating some dance into my morning as
Okay.
well.
Okay. Okay.
So I've really been just, yeah, like I bought a full length mirror and
Hmm.
I've been allowing my body to guide how I move. And I've
Hmm.
also been forcing myself to watch myself as well.
Why?
Because something that I've realized in, yeah, like since my marriage ended
Hmm.
was quite a lot of self-consciousness,
Yeah.
quite a lot of not knowing who I am really as a woman.
Yeah.
And also noticing again just that masculine overpower of protect, like I said, the breadwinner, the mum, the primary caregiver of the children, and everything in my world has changed. And I
Yeah.
realized that I want to show up in my true expression, with
Hmm.
more of this beautiful, divine, feminine. And so I've been using dance and
Awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's we never had a mirror in our house either before getting this mirror because I was kind of, I didn't want the kids focusing on, but they just love this mirror. They're like doing their
Oh
own little
yeah.
dances and yeah, it's good fun.
So, so that's pretty interesting. So, do you think that the mirror is there as a reflection, of course, but for you to kind of like see you? Um,
It is to
and
feel seen, Todd. Like when when you real so what I realized when my marriage ended was that that was the final safety wall to come down.
Mhm.
So much of my expression, the things that I do believe, the things that I wanted to say, the ways that I wanted to move, the avenues I wanted to pursue, I was using. Oh, can you pop down to daddy? Pop down to daddy. Oh, we have a child. Just 1 second.
Hey.
You want to come sit on my lap? I was using, yeah, those safety walls as an excuse to to not shine. And when those safety walls came down and I saw this big wide world outside, I realized just how afraid I was to be fully seen
Yeah, yeah.
as who I am. And I realized, well, if you can see yourself and you can love all of those parts,
Hmm.
then that will be the mirror. You will become the mirror, and that will be the reflection,
Wow.
in your outside world. And that's the truth, right?
That takes
Whatever is
courage.
in your outside world is a reflection. You are the mirror. Become the mirror.
Yeah.
Choose to decide what gets reflected back to you, right? Because of that blueprint ultimately, because it becomes awakened to the beauty of who you are and the beauty of the world and the
So it's
gifts of
almost
the universe.
just it's a total, just like undressing in a sense where, you just let yourself go and be free. And that's hard to actually accept ourselves, uh, our reflection, because we already know we don't like what we don't see. I definitely don't want to see what I don't want to, what I'm not admitting to. And so that takes courage. And I say that because that's the path that I've, it's like I avoid looking at the mirror sometimes. I don't want to look in the mirror,
Yeah, that's
because
right.
I don't like what I see sometimes. And so I'll dim the lights until I get it to a perfect, so now I like what I see. you know. So
Yeah, but you're dimming your light, and it's like I remember a saying once, and I used to use it with the kids and the chaos, of motherhood. Look
yeah.
through the eyes of love, and you'll love everything you see. So I
Hmm.
would just look at the chaos in my kitchen and, the food at the wall and the
Learn.
child like spinning around like a Tasmanian devil filled with evil. And I'd be like, look through the eyes of love, and you will love everything that you see. And the same goes for you, right? It's like if you force yourself to keep your eyes open and you force yourself to look through eyes of love and compliments,
Hmm.
you're going to see something totally different. That reflection in the mirror changes.
Yeah. We're too busy to grow. And I say this because we get so caught up with our mundane lives, and I say that for lack of a better expression here. Just the treadmill. Let's just say the treadmill. We get so caught up, whether you're an entrepreneur or you are, the 9 to 5 person or what have you. We get so caught up with our everyday chores and our everyday lives that we don't have the time, it seems, to stop and actually focus on what really matters, and move to that next level of achievement or your goals or what have you. And I think that's a part of the trap, because once again, I say that because I've seen that in myself. Too busy to actually grow, too busy to actually grow in my business, too busy to actually excel, because I won't slow down and actually take a look at things and surrender, like you say.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like if you truly believe that you are the mirror,
Hmm.
then what becomes time?
Mm.
An absolute illusion, right? There will only be what you see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's the power again of the 7 by 7 method. People say that when they start to drop into those rituals 7 times a day, time expands. And all that is happening is that you're becoming more conscious. So when you
yeah.
stop and you pause and you get off the treadmill and you stop sleeping awake, you wake up and you look back on your reality, and then you start prioritizing what you feel, right? Because you've let go of the guilty feelings, the shameful feelings, the angry feelings, the fearful feelings, and you've connected with your truth.
Hmm.
And then you look out and you can prioritize. Do I go back to that to-do list?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
do I surrender to the nap? Then out of the nap, it's like a whole new day and the creativity sparks, right? Or you open your phone and suddenly there's a message that you don't need to do that thing at all anyway. Just the
yeah.
needs disappeared. That's the
Wow.
synchronicity, the serendipity, the whatever you want to call it, the
Yeah,
miracle
yeah,
frequency
yeah,
switches
yeah.
on. Life starts
Clay,
happening for you, with you. You step into co-creation, you know your truth.
co-creation. I love that. Love that. Love that. Where can we find you, Claire? Online and all those things.
Well, I am on Instagram, the Millionaire Shower Woman.
Hmm.
And I'm also, you can find me on Facebook the same way with the same name.
Yeah.
And on my Instagram bio, there's a Shoreby link. And
Okay.
yeah, there's a link to the book on there. There's lots of free things. You can find my YouTube channel. Yeah.
Man, thank you so much for hanging out with me for a few. I always find these interviews and podcast shows, whatever we want to call them, so interesting because I learn so much. I get so much value, and
Mm.
so they actually become kind of coaching sessions for me, to a degree. And but I thank you so much for being just the fighter that you are. Um, and from your morning wake up to how soft and cerebral it can be to the person that's deadlifting, however much weight you're
See?
deadlifting these days,
A
you
Shah
know.
woman, we integrated. Yeah,
So you're
yeah.
doing it all, and I appreciate it. And thank you so much once again for your time. And I know it's about 6 o'clock there now, and the little ones are waking up and ready to get the day started. But once again, thank you so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes.
You're so welcome. I love what you do. It's amazing. And thank you for sharing my story and sharing my message and my
Yeah.
mission to have more people discover the ease.
That they can have it all.
And that having it all is on purpose, right?
Right.
Because like I said, there's a co-creation. There's
Yeah.
this innate balance that the Divine Mother is asking us to find for us to become like the ecosystem of nature so that everything thrives, so that everybody is connected to that beautiful infinite abundance of the sun. I say to everyone, the sun does not choose who it shines on every day, but you can
Mhm.
choose not to see the sun.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
you can choose not to stand and be grateful and receiving. So it comes from us. And I think it's such a beautiful journey of, like I say, identity shift. But the identity is remembering, remembering who you truly are. That never
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
just is waiting for the invitation to truly shine through.
Thank you for being the light of the world because you are truly, truly um, something that someone that I will be following for life, for sure. And I want to thank you so
Come to
much.
New Zealand too.
Yes, yes. Like I said, my wife, that's her one of her dream vacations, if not dream home, is where she wants to live, actually. So I appreciate you for doing what you're doing. And this conversation will continue because I definitely uh like I said, I'm a fan of yours for life. And okay. And but everyone, thank you so much once again. Thank you, Claire, for hanging out. Like I said, I get so much value from these podcast interviews because I need help. so so I get so much from it. And so I'm going to be following this young lady, like I said, for life. And listen, get in contact with her because that's what we do on the show. We bring these professionals on to talk about what they do and how what they do is contributing to a better society, a healthier society, a wealthier society. The Shaw woman, Clare Williamson, thank you so much once again. And listen, everybody, like I said, the 30-day challenge is coming up. I want to make sure that you get on it. All right, so everybody, thank you once again for hanging out, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Living Your Best Life. Peace.